Hi guys. So I wanna take some time to talk about what I've been working on over the last, let's say, a month, and I guess it's coming up on like a month and a half. So pretty much anything post Christmas, like the holiday season, starting there. So over the course of the holiday season following Christmas, I spent quite a lot of time playing video games with my friends, online, would be on Discord calls and stuff. And while I'm okay with a certain amount of that, it was definitely too much. Like it was way too dominant in my life. It didn't leave enough time for other things. So yeah, the reason why this problem kind of took the spotlight there was because everybody was on holiday, like people who work normally, they have like a holiday time that so yeah, that people had time to play. And yeah, I do want to mention that I was thankfully able to keep up my good habits over this period of time. Exercise mainly being the one that I'm most proud about not screwing up. So yeah, I mean, the timing of when I actually exercised, that varied a bunch, but I did get exercise in every day, so that's really good. The biggest problem that arose from this period of playing a bunch of games was that my sleep schedule suffered quite a bit. So, to give a bit of context to what my sleep schedule has generally looked like, it's been going to bed at 11 p.m. or maybe a little earlier. And for a while back, it was I would wake up at 7 a.m. and then I changed it to 7:30, which I think was a good change. I guess I'm not quite sure yet, but I think I'll get back to that a little later. Yeah, obviously, because I would stay up a lot later, playing games. So I would now, instead of going to sleep at 11 p.m., I could stay up to 1 or 2 a.m., which is quite a big difference. I know for some people, 1 or 2 a.m., especially on a holiday period, is not exactly a very late time to go to bed. But for me, who pretty much always goes to bed at that 11 p.m. time frame or earlier, it is quite a big change. And especially since I have this consistent time at which I wake up, I have like an alarm set. Although, well, depending on the day, this may or may not be true, but I could even wake up before the alarm every now and then. And yeah, because I was going to bed later, I would get less sleep in. I would wake up to my alarm in the morning feeling really tired. And what I would pretty much do was just get out of bed. And I would do one of three things. I would either set a new alarm, usually half an hour later, maybe an hour. So I'd be like, I'll go back to bed for like half an hour longer. And then I'll get up. Which, I mean, is not good because if I'm getting up later anyway, I might as well set the alarm to a later time frame to begin with, so my sleep doesn't become like fractured into pieces. Not to mention that it would take me a little bit of time to fall asleep, and I would pretty much just fall asleep just to pretty much almost immediately wake up again to an alarm, if I even was able to fall asleep in the morning. And yeah, that was scenario number one. The other thing I could do was just turn off my alarm and go back to bed. And then just wake up when I did. But that had its own issue, that being that I would just lay around in bed because I felt really tired. So I had a hard time getting up. I mean, obviously, eventually I did, but it would take me quite a long time. I would miss the morning portion of the day, which I do regard as the most important part of your day as far as productivity goes. So that was obviously a big problem. And yeah, I mentioned there were three scenarios. There was one more, which probably happened just a few times, although I can only distinctly remember one time where I grabbed my phone and went back to bed. This was like the worst possible scenario. So I remember I turned on YouTube and I would just start watching a bunch of stuff. Can't remember what I watched, but like just whatever videos were recommended to me. So I would just lay there in bed. And this one specific scenario I remember, I think I laid in bed for like an hour and a half or like 2 hours or something. Until I eventually was like, yeah, okay, I gotta get up. But yeah, now that obviously screwed that day up pretty badly. But thankfully I was able to get this sleep problem under control. So the first thing I started doing was going to bed earlier. And so pretty much despite wanting to stay up, I forced myself to go to bed at least a little earlier. So I think it was pretty easy to transition from like 1 a.m. to, or like 1 to 2 a.m. to like 12 a.m. or like midnight. That was reasonably easy. But going from midnight to 11 p.m., that took me a much longer time, surprisingly enough. But yeah, every day I tried to get to bed at least a little earlier. And sometimes I would fail, but I would try again the next day, and I did eventually do better. So that was part one of fixing my sleep problem. But it was only part one. Because my morning routine, I have like a bunch of stuff I do in the morning in like a specific order. So I get up, I go to the bathroom, there I brush my teeth and stuff, and then I come back here, I make my bed, I meditate, and there's a bunch of stuff that follows that. I'm not gonna go through my entire morning routine here, but the point is that takes a little bit of time. And obviously when I was waking up later, I still wanted to get that morning routine in, but by the time I was done with that, and it was because I kind of finished my morning routine with like going to make breakfast, and yeah, by the time I'd go to make breakfast, like it wasn't quite lunchtime yet, but it wasn't that far off either, so that kind of threw my entire daily schedule into a complete mess. So yeah, I had to start waking up earlier. And you'd think that comes pretty naturally from going to bed earlier, but not really. At least not for me. I would wake up to my alarm. I mentioned earlier that I would sometimes wake up to my alarm, sometimes not. During this time of like readjusting my sleep schedule, I pretty much every day just had to wake up to my alarm. I didn't wake up like just naturally. And yeah, I would feel really tired in the morning, despite getting a good amount of sleep in. And the way I started fixing this like going back to bed problem was pretty much just forcing myself to stay up. So I mentioned in my morning routine, I go to the bathroom to do a bunch of stuff, like brush my teeth as an example. I would either go there and I would just kind of like sit on the toilet, or if I wouldn't go there, I would just sit here on my bed, and I would just sit there and I would just be like, don't go back to bed, just sit here and think, just stay up. Like, I don't care if it takes me like a long time, but I'm to like actually kind of properly wake up, but I'm not going back to bed. And that did suck, admittedly. That wasn't very fun, but I did feel a lot better afterwards when I actually did wake up and start going about my morning routine. A lot of it was making like small little adjustments every day, every morning rather. And yeah, eventually I was able to get it under control. Because another thing was that even when I did wake up in the morning, I would procrastinate a lot. So again, I would grab my phone and watch YouTube or stuff. That's probably my biggest form of procrastination as far as my phone goes. So yeah. But yeah, over time, just small improvements daily. Sometimes failing, but trying to do better the next day. I was able to get it under control. So yeah, that's how I've been able to recover from this. Alright, so if you're wondering why the different shirt, it's because I'm recording this on a different day than the previous part. So yeah, following the holiday period, or even during it, I started thinking about life balance a lot, which is really what this video was like getting to. So ever since I was like pretty young, I can't remember exactly when I got my first like gaming console. It was the PlayStation 2, by the way. But yeah, I can't remember exactly when it was, but pretty much ever since then, I've spent a lot of time playing video games. And it's only increased over the years until, I don't know, I'd say only in the like very recent years have I become a bit more mindful of how much time I spend on it. So yeah, video games have controlled my life for almost as long as I can remember, and obviously that's a problem. Video games are a pretty heated topic in the self-improvement community. I watch a bunch of self-improvement content myself, although I've been transitioning to like a bit more, watching more podcast long form content than the shorter videos, and which are what I mainly watched when I first kind of got interested in self-improvement. But yeah, the 1 hour video games a day topic, I think, is, I'm not sure if Hamza was the one who originated this idea of 1 hour video games a day not being okay or not, and this isn't supposed to be any kind of like response to that or anything, but it's just something I've been thinking about a bunch, so I think I'll share my thoughts on it. I don't think it's so much about the time itself. Like, I think whatever amount of video games is, let's say, okay, it varies between people, and maybe for some people that is not even a single hour, or not even a single minute, I guess I should say. But yeah, at the same time, because I think it's not about the time itself, how much time you spend playing video games, it's about how much enjoyment you're getting out of it. So would I say that if you get everything you have to do, and maybe even some extra stuff, done in a day, is it then okay to go and spend 1 hour of your time playing video games, assuming you have a really good time doing so? I don't really see anything wrong with that. Now, obviously that's not the case with me. For me, I play way more than an hour of video games, like just about every single day, unless I'm just like really busy for whatever reason. But yeah, I've gradually reduced the time, and I found that the best way to do so, to actually, like, in order to not like relapse, sounds like a weird word to use this, but I guess it in essence is relapse. So yeah, in order to like not relapse and go back to playing a bunch of video games, I found that one of the best ways is just to very slowly over time go from playing, or like not really even thinking about how much time you spend, but rather just slowly adding new good habits into your day, because obviously that those will take time, and therefore the time has to come from somewhere, and that almost automatically comes from time spent playing video games. And I mean, I'm talking about video games a lot here, but I guess, watching YouTube, for me at least, for you it may be some other form of social media, but like, yeah, time on social media is also a really big time, thing. And I feel like that even more so is like, honestly, I think that's even worse for you than video games, but maybe you disagree. But yeah, I've been thinking a lot about if it's okay to actually, like, what is my long-term goal with this video game thing? Like, because currently, I'll be quite frankly honest, I don't really want to stop playing video games altogether. So, when I hear self-improvement YouTubers talking about how 1 hour of video games a day isn't okay, or, saying things like, you're not on self-improvement if you think 1 hour of video games a day is okay. First of all, I think that's a very bad way to look at things. I think that's really gatekeeping self-improvement, which, well, for one, it is a lifelong journey, but two, it comes in many different ways. People have different things they want to improve in their lives, but yeah. So I've been thinking a lot about what my kind of long-term goal with this is, and in a sense, like, I know I don't really need to know if I want to, actually play video games in like 10 years. I don't need to know that right now. I should, in a sense, just focus on, being as productive as possible, as consistently as possible right now. That's somewhat of the solution, or like the, answer I've come to. But at the same time, like I just mentioned, I just don't think video games inherently are a, bad thing, as some people seem to really, claim, let's say. Now, obviously, I want to be really clear on this. Especially if it's not in no way a career for you. I mean, if you actually plan on going, pro, or you make like YouTube content of video games, then this is different. But if you're just, playing for fun, you're in, like, if you spend multiple hours a day playing video games and you're not even trying to, add more productivity to your day, there is some problem there, definitely. I guess what I'm really just getting at is that you should just keep trying to do better, but also know that it takes a long time. Or, I mean, you could try and just, eliminate a certain bad habit completely, whether that would be video games or something else. And, that has worked for some people. But from what I can tell, that's certainly the exception, not the rule. Generally, when you want to quit whatever bad habit, you have to, like, it's a long process. Like, just look at how people, you know, with addiction overcome their addiction. It's very common for people to relapse and stuff. So, and the thing with something like social media or, you know, video games is that it's like, it's different from, like, let's say if you're, you know, drinking and you want to completely quit alcohol. Like, it's a lot easier to reduce the amount of time spent on it than, you know, reducing your alcohol consumption. Maybe I've lost you there, but I don't really know how to explain it otherwise. Or like if a person is addicted to like a drug, for example, you know, it's very hard to, you know, moderate the use of a drug, but it's a lot easier to moderate the use of, you know, social media or video games. That's kind of what I'm getting at. But yeah, I'm gonna keep thinking about how to balance my life a bit better here. But I think I'm making steady progress, which is really good. So that's it for this time. See ya.